Hi guys, welcome back to Casting Commons, the show where we talk and discuss all things Pauper. And I am Teasdale, and this is my co-host, the man with the cryptic serpent himself, Reese.
Hello. I was
What?
wondering what you were going for there.
Yeah, I didn't write anything down. I just had to wing it. You know what I mean? So it's just how it goes. So, Paul, what have you been up to in Magic this week?
Um, Again, similar to last week, a pretty slow week for me, unfortunately. I did play some Pauper, which is a bonus. I ran through a league with the Esper Glitters deck.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I was gonna run through some more, but you wanted your Kenkus back, and I think currently they're like 25 tickets each, and I'm not paying that for two Kenkus.
Yeah. You can have them back
Um,
once I've recorded with them. That's all. I need to just
yeah.
record with the Esper Glitters deck myself. That's all. That's all.
So once you're finished with them, I'll probably borrow them again and run through some more with maybe blue white and a few more with Esper. It definitely feels like a very powerful deck, but like the way it plays is very different to what I initially expected.
Mm.
Um, it plays a bit more like control-y, but despite you don't have answers to stuff, it's quite odd.
Yeah.
Um,
The answers
so
to
yeah,
things is basically block this, please.
yeah. Well, the answers to stuff is you're gonna outcard them and then one hit them before you die.
Yeah.
Mogged wrote quite a good article on it, which is definitely helpful. So I'll probably give it another go. Aside from that, played a bit of Commander. That's about it, magic wise. The standard Commander.
Yeah, the hard carry for all local game stores.
Yeah. What about yourself?
Yeah, I played a little bit of Pauper, not a lot to be fair, because um, got something on the weekend, so I've just been building an army of paper Pauper decks, and I've just got a massive cards, as you well know, obviously. Got the collection off yourself, and I'm now just scouring through cards and just trying to keep, just trying to sort. Played a little bit, obviously. Recorded the Deck Doctor. Played a league with Mono Blue Terror. Deck's pretty powerful.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Did you record that one?
No, I
No.
didn't. I was planning on to, and then I was kind of in the middle of doing things, and I was like, I'll play while doing stuff. Like I was sleeving decks up, and I was like,
Oh,
I'll play a league
fair
of.
enough.
I was like, I'll play a
Yeah,
league of
yeah.
Magic Online while I'm doing it. So, um, yeah, I've got that. I've got a couple of Kenku things to record, and then you can have them back. Um, yeah,
Hopefully they'll drop in price at some point, but they just seem to have gone nuts.
yeah. I can't see them dropping in price when everyone's playing them in all these random glitter piles.
No,
I guess, but yeah.
I'm getting punished. I think I bought mine for 2.5 tickets, sold them at like 15,
Yeah,
and then they're like 20 odd. I was just like,
yeah.
oh no.
I remember having a discussion with you when there were like 4 tickets or 3 tickets or something. I was like,
Yeah.
I begrudged buying another
I
two
don't know.
or something, and then I ended up buying. I think I was like, I'm gonna settle on three, and then I
Yeah.
sold one for roughly the same, and then I'm like, oh, now I've got two. And it's
Yeah.
like,
Luckily, most of the lists are running too, but yeah,
yeah,
it'd be nice to have got four back when they were cheap.
yeah, definitely. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Anyways, I guess we'll move on to a bit of news. So we'll start off with might be a commonplace now. So tournament news: the next Pauper Open has been announced. It is Sunday, the 8th of October. This is at Geek Retreat Leeds. The description, the event, sorry, will be in the description below. It is capped at 64 players due to venue constraints, and I would recommend getting those tickets ASAP as they all have been pretty close to 64 players, and they are definitely selling out. So I'd buy them while you can.
And we are both going
We are
to
that way.
Touchwood.
We are both planning on going. So there we go. And I guess on to normal news,
Yeah.
the spoilers have started.
It's spoiler season once again.
We had a week off, and spoiler season has begun.
I was gonna say, did we even have a week?
Yeah, well, it's been hopeful.
It doesn't feel like we've had much time off.
Yeah, I don't think we'll dive right into the actual card spoilers because some of them are pretty interesting, but we'll do it more when there's a lot more commons, I think, is probably a better thing to touch on. I don't
Yeah, I've
know.
just looked and there's a 1 mana 1/1 fairy at common and it has like a decent ability, so we might have something to talk about.
Oh, am I going to have to look this up?
So I've only just seen this now. I quickly went on to Mythic Spoiler, as you were saying there. But there's a 1 blue for a 1/1 fairy wizard. It's got flying, and when it enters the battlefield, you may pay 2 when you do tap target creature an opponent controls and put a stun counter on it.
Great.
So I guess it may be like a miscreant replacement or an extra fairy for fear, or it may
Oh,
not do
hey.
anything, but it seems like a fairly decent ability on a creature type that is already good.
It's like a network thingy. I can't remember
Yeah,
the
yeah,
cards.
but a
A
fairy,
fairy.
and it stuns it as well, so it
Yeah,
doesn't untap during the next turn
yeah.
as well.
Hmm, interesting. I did
But yeah,
say
I would agree. In general, so far we've not seen a huge amount. Like there's a
yeah,
few things here and there. But I think next week if we'll have a lot more of the spoilers if we pull a bit of a list together of our top few and go
yeah.
over them then.
To be fair, because usually they end up leaving the comments till last.
Yeah.
So I personally, since anything past uncommon, like I genuinely don't care. So I genuinely feel like I get a break from spoiler season, but I feel like I'm one of very few because I have no interest in anything but Pauper. But yeah, we'll probably put a list together of more all the comments that they have, and we'll kind of give a little spiel about them, what we think.
Yeah.
Anyways, guys, on to the Saturday challenge, the 19th of August. Take it away.
Yeah. Um, a bit more mixed up, I guess, than
Mm-hmm.
I expected coming off last week. First place we had Mono Blue Terror. Second place we had Mono Red One Drops. Third and fourth was a Kuldotha and a Fams. And then fifth through eighth was a Mono White Heroic, Boros Synth, Green Red Ponza, and another Boros Synth. And then the two near misses was a Blue Black Terror and another Mono Blue Terror. So a fairly varied top eight. Not
Yeah.
really dominated by Terror. It won, but there was only one copy in the top eight. Obviously, there's two more that aren't very far away, ninth and 10th, and I think 11th was also Terror.
Mm.
Um, so it wasn't very far away, but nice to see a bit more of a variety in the top eight.
Yeah, definitely. It is a very good, diverse-ish topic, I would say as well. Which, first of all, I need to express this, my frustration. GN, come on! I thought we were friends. Literally, he even tweeted me and said he'd purposely dodged the hot take as well. That fam, like last week, I was like, oh yeah, it's all right. Not last week, sorry, the week before. I was like, oh, Fams is going to top eight. It's probably going to be GN. I bet he just went on holiday and was like, I'll do it next week. You know what I mean? Like, what is that all about? He didn't have a murmur mystic, and to be honest, at this point, I probably wouldn't put it past him to not submit it because I said that it would have a murmur mystic in, but yeah,
Yeah, it was. I'd say fairly stock as Fams is really.
yeah,
There wasn't anything in particular that stuck out to me. Like you say, no Murmur Mystics or anything. But obviously, GN's a absolute boss with fans, so
yeah.
it doesn't really need any new tools.
No. He has his staple remove soul in there, obviously for like the initiative
Yeah,
piles, and the lose focus for the I can counter your board and party and your land destruction you've cascaded
yeah,
into kind of thing. But yeah, definitely fairly stock list. As stock as obviously the Lorien reveal piles can be.
yeah.
I guess the
Um,
power of Cop Blue is what sticks to my mind, is especially in the Terra field. Definitely
yeah,
helps those.
yeah. It's really strong at the moment, especially as there is now essentially a mono blue version of
Mm.
Terra. Like you get 50% sort of access against the blue red and the blue black, but when there is a mono blue version, every threat in it is blue. You sort of it's a winner there if you can get it down. Medvedev as well, running an updated version of his mono red one drops list.
Mm-hmm.
Coming second, absolutely crushing it. Pretty interesting list as well. It's sort of gone even further in on like the mutagenic growths and the creatures
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to the burn. It only runs chain lightnings, bolts, and lava darts as burn. It doesn't run any of the like one of fire blasts and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, pretty clean list.
Definitely a sweet one.
And I guess my final, I guess two final points. Notable lack of affinity / all the glitters decks. in the top 10, there's opposed to, I guess, Boros Synth, there's no real artifact decks.
Mm.
And then Mono White Heroic making the top 8, always good to see.
Yeah, obviously the only all that glitters decks, only all that glitters deck
Yeah.
in the top 8. Unless it's just double checking the Boros wasn't like a sneaky Boros all that glitters pile, but no, it's not. But yeah, it's definitely nice to see Mono White Heroic for sure, and it's more of like a traditional kind of style with all that glitters, which is definitely nice to see.
Yeah, I think those are the kind of decks, like when we get these big downshifts that are just massive swings in the format, like the decks like Heroic, where it sort of just auto slides in are the decks, or the lower powerful decks that the cards instantly go in and upgrade are the decks, or the places I like to see them most, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like all the glitters in Affinity is obviously probably the best place for it, or in an Affinity Shell.
Mm-hmm.
But the deck that I guess needs it more is Heroic, and it's nice to see it's able to slot those in and capitalize on it.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. I guess we also have a Ponza in there as well. I'm just double checking to see how it was not the Relic main version. It was just running the 2 Jewel Thieves, so a fairly stock list. That because we seen was it last week or the week before where we seen a Ponza do well with main deck Relic.
Yeah.
So it's as fun as Ponza can be. Like, don't get me wrong, Ponza can definitely be a pain to verse, and obviously it's a very high variance, but it's high variance in terms of cascade and how much land destruction they're seeing and all that. But it's still nice to see it do well.
I think it's a good marker to have in the format. Like if Ponza's good, you're probably not that far from being in a good place.
Mm.
Although it has explosive draws on the most part, it's a fairly fair deck.
Yeah.
Essentially just green ramp, a couple of red removal spells, and cast some big creatures.
Yeah.
You've got those explosive turn 2 like Thermocast draws, but you need something, I guess, to compete.
Yeah. But yeah, and then the Boros, there was the 1 Boros deck. Oh no, 2 Boros deck.
Yeah, there's two Boros Sims, yeah.
And they were both on Lemmas, I believe. One had Seeker, which was quite nice, I guess.
Yeah, they both had 4 relics in the main as well. So, one had 3, one had 4. Yeah. Sorry, so they were both very well prepared for the terror.
Yeah, I think was it last week we got like a Boros deck with relics in the main, and then it seems I wouldn't be surprised with this current meta if it just came around as stock.
Yeah, it's sort of just the best answer, I guess, at the moment for the sort of more mid-rangey decks. Obviously, that the more aggressive decks want like Torment Script and that to be able to cast and not have to hold up mana. But the like grindy decks like Boros, like Old School Affinity and stuff like that, that you can slot relics in like Ponza, that you can have relics in and hold up that mana. It seems like a good place to be right now.
Yeah, definitely. It still baffles me how unstock Boros is. Like, looking at the difference between these 2 lists in particular, like, their basically thing in common is they have relics main, some Glitterhawks and Skyfish and Synth, and that's kind of it. After that, like, one has Galv Blast, one has Lightning Bolt, one has Foundry Helix, one's just went all in on Journeys and all this sort of stuff. It's like, one doesn't even run Thraben Inspector. Like, just whatever. It's fairly strange to me that we still at this, like, late in the game almost, we just haven't got a stock Boros list.
Yeah.
Shows how good
one of
Red
them
White
sort
is.
of more burn slanted, isn't it, with Swift Spears and Galv Blasts and Foundry Helixes.
Yeah.
Where the other one's sort of more value with like extra journeys, random bad Batter Fist and Thraben Inspectors.
Yeah. But so I think perfect segue to move on to our deep dive for Saturday, I guess.
Yeah. It was the 12th place. I'm gonna say Kerblinksy.
Yeah. Just call him Kirby.
All the glitters decks. Which is like a Jeskai version, not the Esper version that we've seen last week, or the blue-white version that we'll see in a bit. This, I guess, is sort of what you initially looked at. I remember when you seeing that all the glitters was getting downshifted, although you had the egg in
Yeah, the egg and the green
um,
hawk side of things.
as the value engine, where this basically just is it goes in all in on all the glitters, but has the red for the burn spells and Voldar and Epicure as like
Hmm.
I guess a red Thraben inspector
Hmm.
essentially. It's quite cool. It's
Hmm.
cool to see Witch and Well as well take sort of I guess the Blood Fountain slot from the Esper version,
Yeah.
where it's an early
Mhm.
artifact that gives you some value early, and then you can crack it later for more value.
Yeah, it's definitely a sweet one, which and well. I believe, as I said, I don't know the original. I seen Walker was messing with a list with Witch and Well in. It's definitely a great find to have. Like
Mm.
it's just a instead of a late game recursiveness with obviously the Mer Enforcer side of things, it's just late game. I have a bunch of mana. I'll just draw some cards when I've got enough artifacts. The one interaction that I do like with Voldar and Epicure, which is definitely missed when I first missed it, is the fact that it gives lifelink with Wedding Invitation because it's a vampire.
All right, yeah, yeah, that's pretty cool.
Which is pretty cool indeed. It's definitely a nice way to just steal a like a life swing and just gain life out of the game. Um,
One of Lorien as well with
yeah.
the a couple of dual lands in the mana base.
Mm.
Quite an interesting one.
Yeah, I don't actually hate this to be fair because like if you've seen the Esper build last week, it ran like a one of basic, so you've
Yeah,
effectively like cut a land for another one, and then you've just got Lorien instead of the third reverse engineer, which reverse engineer is fine, but it can definitely get places where like you can't go in most games. You can't go Thoughtcast with reverse engineer because
mm.
you just tap yourself out basically to play the reverse engineer. It's hard to chain them,
Yeah,
so I can see the first Lorien reveal being actually like really powerful in that late game.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's a cool list.
Mm.
Sideboard as well. Sort of hinting on what you said before. Two circular protection blues and a circular protection green. These definitely feel like they're falling a lot more into favour. Like back
Mm.
in the day, you would obviously have loads of circular protections in sideboards,
Yeah.
because they're just really solid sideboard cards. They sort of fell off for a while, but now with Terra being so prevalent and its main threat being blue, or all its threats being blue in some cases,
Mm.
and then Bogle's obviously getting that massive uplift of all the glitters as well. Um, the inclusion of circular protection again, given that it doesn't target, is pretty big.
Yeah, definitely. I think also the green has some obviously I wouldn't say utility, but it just coincidentally it's quite good at if you can take the initiative off like an Avenging Hunter
Yeah,
deck, you can just coincidentally, oh, I'll just protect it. And I'll
yeah,
now become the initiative deck because you're not taking it because you're an Annoyed Altasaur or your Avenging Hunter can't really get through or whatever. Just quite nice. Just that.
yeah. And I suppose you can just leave your mana up and let the initiative play out and give you that extra value
Yeah,
anyway.
definitely.
Yeah,
I like the Cryptomancer as well. It seemed
yeah. In the main,
fairly nice take on it. The another protective spell that's also good
yeah,
to wear all that glitters.
yeah.
Definitely a sweet one. Sweet deck. Really like this.
Yeah, it's definitely a cool sort of iteration on it. It looks a lot more like an all the glitters deck than that Jeskai one that we were first looking at.
Yeah,
Um, that was essentially, I guess, a Boros deck with some thought casting.
yeah.
Um, this very much looks like it's built to optimize all the glitters and
Mm.
protect whatever you put it on.
Yeah, definitely.
The 4 win invitation as well. Obviously, the Esper version we seen last week only had a singleton.
Mm.
Um, when I was playing it, I was often like drawing like, oh, I hope this is the one wedding invitation. So having more of those
Yeah.
definitely seems like a bonus.
Yeah, I just think having Wedding Invitation, it just lets you win games that you just generally, I think I said it before, had no right winning.
Yeah,
Like, you could get to this board stall, and it's just like, okay, I guess I'll win now because I found this win. I don't think it's as much needed in the red version, I guess, because you do have the reach with the Galv Blast and the Lightning Bolt, so you might
mm.
not need it as much. But I do think having it in a deck, like in an all glitters deck, generally is just, you might as well.
Yeah. I think what I found as well playing it out in the sideboard games, you were often like the best guy for the all the glitters was the Thraben Inspector
Mm.
because they can't artifact removal it.
Yeah,
Um, Obviously the Esper one had like Ornithopters and Frog Knights and stuff in. so the removal was a lot more painful on the creature base. This version obviously doesn't, but when you were putting all the glitz on a Thraben Inspector and then they were just chumping it for days,
Yeah, definitely.
it wasn't ideal. But yeah, with 4 wedding invitations, obviously that cool interaction with Epicure as well. It definitely seems
Seems
like
solid.
a reasonable choice. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Do you want to move on to Sunday?
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
So Sunday the 20th of August.
Not quite as varied as the Saturday. This was sort of more in line, I guess, with what we were thinking last week.
Yeah.
First place was Blue White All the Glitters. Second place, Mono Red 1-drops again. Third and fourth was another Mono Red 1-drops and a Colgate. And then 5th through 8th was Mono Blue Terror, Blue Black Terror, Mono Blue Terror, and a Boros Synth. And then the 2 near misses. 9th place was a Prowess Burn, and 10th place was a Cold Offer with Batterfist in. Just as some extra spice, I guess.
Mono Red Batterfist. That's what it needs to be called.
Well, it was just Cold Offer with did it have 1 in?
No, I think it had 3 in or something, didn't it?
Oh, did it? Yeah, but apart from those, it was essentially stock Cold Offer. Yeah, 3.
See, look at that.
But yeah, a slightly more skewed challenge, I guess, than the Saturday. The Saturday was a lot more varied. This is sort of more what this format is sort of starting to shape out as, which is Mono Red versus Terra variant. But still, I guess, would Colgate provide proven it's still strong enough to fight through this sort of hostile meta. A bit of spice with the all the glitters, different version. But yeah, a lot of burn, a lot of terror.
Yeah, I think 2 things that I've kind of realized. Colgate generally seems to have a good terror matchup, I think, anyways. Yeah. Similar to the Cop Blue side of things, having Prismatic Strands is really strong. And they're really awkwardly, they can't really deal with the Sacred Cat Basilisk Gate kind of side of things very well, it seems. So that seems, and then also having counterspell interaction and having access to Graveyard here in the sideboard. It seems to be a solid matchup, which is quite nice. And I guess that's probably why I thought it was going to be a lot more prevalent this time round. But I also think that leads me to, we thought obviously certain things like Mono Red would kind of drop down, but I guess my thought process of realizing this now is Blue Black Terror seems like the worst Terror deck at the moment because it's very set in how it operates, and people have had the longest time to play around that and also figure out what decks are good against it. That it's fell off. I think it's the worst Terror deck against Terror, in a Terror mirror, I would say as well. But the thing it seems to me is the lack of Fangs means that Mono Red probably has a reasonable matchup against the other 2.
Yeah, I think what we're seeing as well with the Mono Red decks, they're all sort of moving away from the pingers. So obviously with the pinger versions, Hydroblast is a lot better against you because you can, if you tap out for the pinger, they just kill it for 1 mana. Or if you tap out for an impulse, they just counter it for 1 mana.
Yeah.
So they're all sort of moving towards the super low to the ground, either very burn heavy or very creature heavy versions. Which Hydroblast is obviously a lot worse at. And you can go, if the Mono Blue Terror deck's just playing 1 big threat, you can go super wide around that threat.
Yeah, it definitely seems that way. That, as you say, if you're amassing an amount of burn, they can't hydro everything, and then if you're amassing a mass of creatures, they can't hydro everything again, and then they don't have the life to get through to gain that back.
Yeah,
it seems, which is quite where it seems. I think with the Blue Black Terror being, it seems to be taking a downshift in popularity. I would say because Mono Blue Terror obviously won and was the only Terror I believe in the Saturday, and obviously we've only got the 1 Blue Black Terror on the Sunday.
Yeah, Mono Blue definitely seems like the most popular at the moment. Obviously no Blue Red here. That's also a consideration. The Blue Red version is still a deck, but yeah, Mono Blue seems like by far the most popular.
I think the big issue with Mono Blue at the moment, the Blue Red, is the lack of you don't have a list. I think it's hard to find what numbers are good. and we've seen obviously a lot of blue red terror, and they varied so much in lists that you can't really see what's good against what and figure out unless obviously you are testing it yourself. So it's just probably trying to find its feet again, I guess, because the meta
Yeah.
has shaken up a lot since it's.
Yeah, to be fair, I think with the mono blue version as well, it did sort of auto build itself.
Yeah.
Whereas, yeah, like you said, the blue red one, even decks like blue red fair and that are still all over the place with numbers. They just sort
Yeah.
of tend to be all over the place.
Yeah.
And the blue red terror isn't really any different. The lists we were seeing last week were just sort of like one-offs everywhere.
Yeah.
And no real set numbers. I imagine it will come back, but probably it probably needs to skew itself to beat that mono red matchup. It has the new, I guess, 4-mana Wrath,
Sulphurous Blast.
Sulphurous Blast,
Yeah.
that will give it a lot of game against like the creature heavy red decks. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, I guess my last comment is obviously the blue white glitters deck that won is basically the Esper version, but with Ginger Brute in.
Yeah,
I think there's
and no blood fountains.
no blood fountain. It's like
and no, it doesn't run the blue black dual either. Just does it run Darksteel Citadel
Dark Steel
instead?
Citadel
Yeah.
and an extra island. Pretty
Yeah,
interesting.
it's a pretty clean version of the list. Basically stacked on 4-ofs with a couple of 2-ofs here and there.
Yeah.
I find it interesting that Reverse Engineer 3 just seems like the number that everyone's sat on.
Yeah.
Which I'm not sure if it's correct or not. I could see it easily, but it's just interesting that even the Esper versions and the blue white versions just seem to both sat on 3.
Yeah. I think 4 is 100% too many. It's just that bit clunky.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know why 3's the right number. I guess there's no other draw, I guess, but maybe I don't know, maybe something like Witch and Well maybe find its way in a list like this, I guess, instead.
Yeah, I think after seeing that Jeskai version, Witch and Well sort of feels like it might have a place in here. I guess the Chromatic Stars are probably the spot for that. A lot of the the space in this deck, the blue white version and the Esper version, are taken up by the Springleaf Drum Ornithopter package.
Yeah.
Whereas the Jeskai didn't have that, so it just had 8 cards free, basically off the rip.
Yeah. But it ran a lot more. Did it run 20 lands or something? So it's pretty nice. It managed to obviously have that thing where it has the higher land count, play more like kind of like Grixis Affinity in a bit of a slower game plan, but with an all Glitters kind of end game.
Yeah, I think the red removal as well allows you to do that because you have answers for
stuff.
spears and
anything.
Stuff. Yeah.
Just have answers for anything.
Yeah.
But anything else to mention on the Sunday challenge?
No, I don't think so. It's sort of, I guess, what we expected. It would have been nicer if it was as varied as the Saturday, but we did sort of expect a fight between two of the top decks. It turns out it's mono red and Terror. We knew it was going to be Terror and something.
Yeah. I guess my last comment is play bad Batfist in your red decks. That's a sweet card.
It's not a 1-drop though.
But it's cool. You get to play a Batfist, get a 2/2, and then sack the Batfist. And you called out like what? That's like 4 creatures for your Bushwhacker.
For your 3-man.
Mind blown. Anyways, so the deep dive deck I've chose is Weber or Against at 18th place with Mono White Heroic. A, because we touched on Mono White Heroic earlier, and B, this list's pretty weird, but in a typical Weber fashion, it's weird but works.
Yeah, it's a lot different from the Saturday list that top 8'd.
Yeah.
That list had basically, I don't think it had any instants and sorceries in.
No, it didn't.
It was just creatures, lands, and enchantments. Whereas this has more protection in Emerge Unscathed and Lauren's Escape.
Yeah.
The Saturday list as well, the creature base was all sort of pretty clean as well, with 4 cats, 4 Deathblade Elite, 4 Bodyguard, and 4 Trailblazers.
Yeah.
where Weber's is sort of all over the place.
Yeah. With
The
two
same number of creatures, but
yeah.
just a lot of two-ups.
Yeah, two Vault Scourge, two Akron Skyguard, two bodyguards and two catches. Very odd numbers, but I guess want something. Flying, I don't know.
Mm.
Definitely an interesting one. Only two benevolent blessings as well, as opposed to I think the other one run four.
Yeah, did you?
Just I guess less all in on the like aura side of things, I guess.
Yeah, it sort of has the other cards as protection with the
Yeah.
Emergent Escape and the Lawrence Escapes.
Mm.
So I guess you don't need to go as hard on the Benny Blessings.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is cool. I do like Heroic as a deck. I played against it the other day, and Deathblade Elite with all the glitters on is like insane.
Yeah.
It just basically destroys whatever it wants.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
it's a pretty good one. I guess moving on to the sideboard, I guess. We have two free wind falcons. The falcon from Protection from Red, Obsidian Acolyte as a 3 of pro black guy, three standard bearers because you're probably gonna verse the mirror and bogles a lot. Two gut shots, two spirit links, and three beacon apparitions. I love this card. This card is sweet.
it always struck me as sort of a weird one. I don't really get it.
Why?
Obviously, it provides you a guide to suit up, but I don't really see where Ethal in one card is relevant.
Kind of, do you know what? I actually think I think it's quite I don't know, I think it's quite relevant for
Yeah.
two reasons. So like I don't Terra's the only exception, but against
Which is the most
yes,
played graveyard.
but before that, anything that had like a little bit of a graveyard interaction, you never actually did it like thing the whole graveyard. Like Gardens had Blood Fountain and Chainer's Edict. Affinity obviously have Blood Fountain, so you'll need to like hit them when they target and stuff.
Mm.
And it also gives you Chainer's Edict protection.
Yeah.
Which is like kind of like the at that point, like I don't know why. I don't know if there should be still this now. Like obviously with Terra, as you say, Terra being the best deck. I don't know if you should just run like three relics. But I think I guess you just try to steamroll them at that point and just.
I think, to be fair, I don't think you want Relic. Obviously, you're a lot faster than Terra.
Yeah.
You don't want to be just like sitting on a Relic.
Mm.
But yeah, it's just always struck me as a bit of an odd one.
Yeah, it does look odd, and it's kind of I just see it as like similar to like the rotten reunion in the blue black Terra kind of slot. It's just a nice chain as protection, hits that one card to slow down. It could be a deep analysis in the Terra Mirror or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a sweet one.
I guess an interesting comparison between the two, the Saturday deck
Mm.
ran 8 protection from black guys in the sideboard. Whereas obviously Weber's only runs the 3 Obsidian Acolytes and that's it. And I don't think the other one ran Falcon at all. No, it didn't.
I guess it depends what it's for as well.
Yeah.
Because the Beacon apparition is quite useful against blue black Terra because the spirit's black, so it can't be snuff outed.
All right, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, that's interesting.
I guess. But I guess it all depends on what the black's for. Like, again, obviously against Gardens or something, if that's what you're sideboarding the pro black for, obviously it's no good. Because you're just going to get cast down, disfigured, defiled, fungal infection, whatever. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't really matter. So, but yeah, it's definitely an interesting one. And it's definitely a sweet deck. As we said, or as you said, sorry, is basically having the extra ethereal armor or the Aura Glitters kind of downshift has really like helped this deck, and it's shown because it's not only top 8'd the Saturday with top 20'd, 18th place.
Yeah.
And
it's a nice deck to have do well. It's sort of a fairly historic deck to Pauper. It's not that old. It's like what original Theros sort of era.
Yeah.
But it's nice that it's been sort of downtrodden for quite a while and not had any new tools for, I guess, since like cartouches maybe.
Yeah.
Probably the newest things it's had. I guess Cat, if you play Cat, Cat's fairly new as well.
Yeah.
But it's nice that it gets something really powerful to just slot in and make it fairly high tier again.
And the thing I like about this and Bogles is like it's a deck that if you really did want to hate it out and not lose to it, like that's still a potential.
Oh yeah,
So it's like not it can never really be that problematic in a nutshell.
yeah.
In
You
like
can
a
just jam some Serenities in
yeah
and stuff
yeah.
like that.
So it's definitely nice. Um, I guess anything else for the deep dive?
No, that's it
No.
from me.
So I guess some quick shout outs before we obviously move into our hot takes. Shout out to obviously Medvedev obviously continue to crush it.
Mm.
Definitely brewing. Obviously he's been brewing all in all sorts of different formats, doing really well. Still come back to Pauper and crushing it with mono red one drops with a new take. Um, Shout out to GM for ruining my hot take on purpose, I guess. Cool. Again, Weber constantly on a tear, doing well with all sorts of decks, and you know, it's nice to see.
Yeah,
And finally, obviously Kirby, who we touched on the deep dive deck with the Jeskai glitters. Check out his channel if you haven't already. But pretty decent guy. Continue. At least he's not on Turbo Fog. That's his usual go-to, so can't really complain there. Yeah, and that's it for the shoutouts. Move on to the hot takes from last week.
yeah. So my first one from last week was that we'll see a top 8 where every deck is playing some number of Tolarian Terror. I'd say this is still coming, but the sort of surge in mono red has me questioning it a bit. I could definitely see more like 50% Terror, 50% mono red, as we are starting to look like that, especially on the Sunday. But yeah, definitely not happened yet.
Yeah, my previous hot take was Gardens will make a return in the top 8. That did not happen. But I'm kind of running the conclusion that every time I put something like this happens, it happens the week after, anyways. So we'll see Gardens next week. Is basically what I've decided.
Yeah.
Um,
My second one was that obviously mono red would die down a lot, and Swift Spear will be overtaken as the card to ban, the top card to ban on people's list. On one hand, I'm glad I'm wrong. I do enjoy mono red. I enjoy playing it. On the other hand, Terra and Swifty is the two best decks. Doesn't seem like the greatest play experience for the format.
yeah, no, definitely not.
So yeah, it's definitely not dying down. If anything, it's probably coming back to tied for the best deck in the format again.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Remember
but if
when
that's good or not.
remember when everyone was worried that Affinity was the best deck? Remember when that
Yeah.
was a thing?
Remember when they banned like 6 cards out of it and it was still the best deck because they just banned random cards.
Yeah, my last take was Terra and Corgate will be the top decks next week. Kind of half right. Terra's still the best deck. I kind of with Corgate obviously having such a good Terra matchup, I felt like it would come down to basically Terra versus Corgate. Clearly didn't happen. Corgate's still doing well,
I
but
think Corgate is probably pretty close there, but it just doesn't have as many pilots as some of the other decks.
yeah,
Stuff like Boros, Mono Red, Terra, all the Glitters decks,
yeah,
like your Boggles and your White Weenie, always seem to have more pilots than Corgate. But I feel like if it had the pilots, it would probably be there.
yeah. Definitely see that. I guess we'll move on to the hot takes for next week.
Yeah, going back to a golden oldie from me. we'll have a Pauper format panel comment on the format. We've got 2 weeks before we get even more new cards. They said they're watching the format and will comment at some point, but you sort of once again in between a rock and a hard place where if you don't comment in the next 2 weeks, you're gonna have to say, "Oh, we're waiting to see how Eldraine settles down."
Yeah.
So hopefully they'll comment and at least tell us what they're thinking.
Yeah.
That would be nice.
I think my personal thoughts on this is it always should be like, regardless if you have nothing to say, like nothing like I'm going to change the format, just say it. Having some
Yeah.
communication is key.
Yeah.
Having nothing here for when was the last video? Like 6 months, 4 months ago, or something stupid.
Yeah, I'm not sure on that one.
Do you know what I mean? It was quite a while ago. So
Yeah.
like having how many sets we've had a lot of sets since then. So like, why not just like if you comment every 3 sets, even if you're just saying, oh yeah, we're looking at this, we've noticed this, this is all that's happened, we're monitoring it.
Mm.
That's better than nothing. It keeps
Yeah.
everyone in the loop, keeps everyone that you're still looking at the format and all that sort of stuff, and it seems great. But it is, I do obviously understand it is awkward for them because, as you say, we've had what? We're now looking at 3 months, 3 sets.
Yes.
And it's a hard one to watch settle because it just like the last week before Lord of the Rings came out. I think no, not last week before Lord of the Rings. The last week before this set came out, obviously Blue Red Terror just emerged on the scene. Like it wasn't a deck, and it's like bang, here it is. Like I understand that there's not enough time for anything to settle, so it is a hard thing for them to do. But even if it is, this is our best guess from where we're at.
Yeah. I
Um,
think, as you say, even if they just say, "Oh, we're still looking at this. This is what we're thinking. We're not going to do anything right now, but we're going to continue." It's good to just have some form of comment,
yeah,
even if it's a non-comment, if
yeah,
that makes sense.
yeah, definitely. Just keeps everyone's mind at rest. My next hot take is Murmur Mystic will find an actual home next week. So we have seen this card appear in random decks, is the best way I can describe it. Like it's occasionally been in Terra, like Blue Black Terra, it's occasionally been in Blue Red, it's been in Jeskai, it's been in Farms, it's been everywhere. But it always feels like the friend you felt like you had to invite along, or the when you you know what I mean, he's just randomly there.
Yeah.
It's just that's the best way. It's not really found a Murmur and Mystic deck. It's kind of it's like Terra with this in, or I'm Ephemerate loop, and I guess I'll have a Mystic in. So my thought is, in the top 32 of something next week, we'll find a dedicated Mystic deck. That's my call.
It would be nice. Sort of, it's a card that looks powerful enough to have its own home.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, at the moment, it does feel very much like it's sort of slotted in here as a one of. They're going to try it. It's slotted in over there as a two of. They're going to try it out, and it
Yeah.
hasn't really found anywhere. So it should find somewhere. Like it feels powerful enough.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess we'll see.
Yeah, we will. I guess. Fire away.
My second one for next week was that we'll have another Glitters Affinity, a different version, top 8. Obviously, we had Esper last week, we've had Blue White this week. So maybe Jeskai, maybe something else.
Red white.
Yeah. Although Thoughtcasting's pretty good, so I don't know if you want to cut that. But yeah, a different version, something that's not Blue White, so not Jeskai, top 8 next week. Could be green, could be Carapace Forger making a comeback.
Oh,
Damn. It's been a while. It's been a while.
Banned. Oh, that's it. Banned Affinity.
Get brewing.
Oh, that'll be cool. I'm excited. I hope that one comes to fruition. Yeah, my last take is Terra will become inbred to beat themselves, like even more than normal. So the best way I can describe it is like the mono blue fair era that we had, like obviously a couple of months back, where they kind of became this fair deck plus the Spire Golem Bind the Monstersy fair deck, where it kind of was built to beat itself, is kind of the thing that I'm thinking. So like Blue Black Terror, Blue Red Terror, Mono Blue Terror, all that sort of stuff. They'll kind of just go for anti-terror stuff. Like I don't know, maybe Blue Red Terror runs Pyroblast in the main or something stupid. Do you know what I mean?
Blue White Terror with Circle of Protection blue.
Oh snap! Like mono blue.
I'm not sure what else you get from white, but
mono blue Terror splashing idyllic beachfront for a cop below.
I mean, yeah, you can splash it pretty easily with
You know what I mean?
Lorians.
You know what I mean? That sort of level, who knows? So
yeah, I could see that. It's definitely the deck to beat at the moment. So it sort of makes sense that deck will also want to beat itself.
Mono Blue Terror's got no bad matchups bar itself.
Yeah.
You know, gotta beat itself somehow. I wouldn't even be surprised if the Mono Blue Terror starts running like Spire Golem or something random. I know it sounds weird, but basically just so it doesn't die to Cop Blue or something.
Yeah, there was variants like trying Spire Golem in the threat slot, alongside like obviously the Serpents and the Terrors. I think that sort of got pushed to the side for Delver, but as you say, it does galvanise the cock blue the same as Terra does. So
Yeah.
Cool.
There you go. Anything else to add?
No, that's it from me.
So there you go, guys. Another week, another amazing episode of Casting Commons, if I do say so myself. What can I say? If you have enjoyed this podcast, please do not forget to share it with your friends, your local pauper community, and your grandma. It has been appreciated, because obviously we have had a lot of influx in people and viewers, which is obviously great to see. And thank you all for staying with us, I guess. You know,
Yeah. People are actually listening to us now.
yeah. I don't know why, but
No, I don't either.
But yeah, I'm glad you're all liking it, and it's fantastic to see it grow. So if you could just share some love and support, and share us to everyone, that'd be greatly appreciated. And that is all from us at Casting Commons. Until next time, and don't forget to stay hydrated.
See ya.